What is Breece Hall's future with the New York Jets? Well, down at the owners' meetings in Palm Beach, Florida, head coach Aaron Glenn hinted potentially for a role change for the running back, and who knows if he will be on this team entering the 2025 season. A lot to get into, and we'll break down the latest in Jetland and much more, all coming up here on a Wednesday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, joined by our guy, Matt O'Leary, here on the show, right here, right now.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer, and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
What is going on, everyone? Hello, and welcome back here to another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. I appreciate you all tuning in here on the show on this Wednesday evening. Can't thank you enough for all your support. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, completely free. Our membership raffle for March we completed just a few days ago, and I will be mailing out the items tomorrow. For those who addresses I have Jimmy's info, I have our number one Austrian Jet fans info, I have Jeffrey's info. Other than that, South Philly, you still need to claim your channel emoji. T. Rivera, you still need to send me your info for the Jericho Cotchery signed photo. And Oscar the Grouch, I still need your info to get you the Wayne Corbett signed jersey. But I can't thank you enough for all your support. And we're going to be keeping the membership raffle going through the month of April. You can get a ticket into our raffle every $2.99 super chat or every gifted membership. We'll do so, and we have the prizes, 6 total prizes, 4 autographed items. Those prizes include a Don Maynard signed photo, Joe Klecko signed helmet, Joe Willie Namath Super Bowl III replica ring, CJ Mosley signed jersey, a free item from our merch store, channel emoji. Every $2.99 super chat or every gifted membership will get you an entry into our raffle. But joining me right now, fellow Jets content creator here in his weekly spot on the program, Matt O'Leary, is kind enough to grace us with his presence. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Connor. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, super happy you are able to be here as always. And I kind of want to get your thoughts right away on what I started with at the top of the show. And that's Aaron Glenn's unique comments when asked at the owners' meetings how Breece Hall is right now, what his fit is going to be into this offensive scheme. He said he's in a good place mentally, but he emphasized the fact that the Jets are going to use all 3 of their running backs. And I think it's a fair point because the Jets do have 3 solid running backs. Obviously, in Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, we saw the power that he brings to the table. And even in a limited sample size, Isaiah Davis showcased some juice. But now, connecting the dots here, Breece entering the final year of his contract, coming off somewhat of a down year. The fact that we often see some new regimes come in and try to make a statement trade, get out, show that no one's job is safe here, kind of connecting the dots and maybe floating around a potential Breece Hall trade. Could you potentially see the Jets trying to shop Breece Hall?
I'm sure. I mean, anything's possible. I don't think anyone's written in stone on this 2025 roster. To me, I interpreted the comments that they're just not going to lean as heavy on Breece Hall. And if you look at how different the Lions and the Jets were last year, the Lions were 3rd in the league in rushing attempts versus the Jets, who were 32nd in the league. And Breece Hall accounted for, I believe it was 57% of the Jets carries, where by comparison, Jahmyr Gibbs, who's the lead back in Detroit, accounted for 47%. So there was a much bigger split between the Detroit Lions running backs. And I think that's what we get this year. And you also have to factor in Justin Fields is one of the, highest efficient rushing quarterbacks in the NFL. So I just think they're going to really, spread it around in the rushing attack. So it might be a less is more approach with Breece Hall, but I don't think we're going to see him getting the lead brunt work. I think it'll be split relatively evenly.
Matt, a 3rd and a 5th round pick a team offers you in this year's draft. Leave it or take it for Hall?
Yeah, I think we did something similar last week. I'm not
with
really
Garrett, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade Breece Hall. I think how I would approach it is let this year play out. And then if you don't want to re-sign him, you can let him walk and go into the comp pick formula. Or if he has a good year, which I still think that he's talented enough to have a good season, I'd look to franchise tag him because the running back franchise tag is not, an exorbitant amount of money. And I think that would be the best approach in this little short term here. But as you mentioned, with regime changes, nobody's job is safe. So maybe it's something they would consider.
Now, Matt, comment that Darren Muji made down at the owners' meetings was they're pretty much going to push specifically you mentioned Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. Those two extensions are going to be a post draft topic. I know you really like Garrett, and I know you want him to be here long term. Are you okay with them maybe waiting till after the draft? Or are you in the boat that boom? I just want to get these two guys extended as quick as possible.
I think the sooner the better for both of those guys, but just by feel, it would be really hard for them to get something down in the next couple of weeks before the draft. I think I would imagine that they do extend both Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, but maybe that's more of a, after the draft before training camp thing. If memory serves correct, that was similar to what happened with Michael Carter last year. He was signed over the summer. So maybe that's the route that we see with both Garrett and Sauce Gardner too.
Yeah, MC2 was signed, I think, 2 weeks before the week 1 game against the 49ers. So it was a super, super late extension. So a good comp there. That's something to certainly look out for. Next topic I really want to get into, something that was discussed at the owners meetings regarding the Jets, was the Woody Johnson report card and him going out there and calling it complete bogus. Thoughts on the looks? We kind of heard mixed feelings. We've heard some people say Woody Johnson handled it very well, and then we've heard some people say he was an absolute joke. He created even more headlines. Thoughts on how Woody Johnson handled, his second media scrum since the hiring of Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji?
Yeah, I don't think it was great, to be honest with you. For me, I wish he just left it as, we're going to take everything into account and just try to get better. I think calling the report bogus is only adding fuel to the fire. It feels like, to me at least, anytime he opens his mouth, it feels like he's making the situation harder for himself instead of kind of just like being like, yeah, we're gonna take everything. It could have been a simple one sentence answer. We're gonna
exactly.
we're gonna take everything into account, and we're gonna try the best, to be the best organization we could be going forward. And like, boom, that's it. It's over now. And now it's a big story because he called the report bogus, which it was an NFLPA survey. I don't know how that could possibly be bogus
from the players.
Yeah, right. It's from the players. It's not like it's just made up out of the blue. So I just think he tends to lack a little self-awareness, which frustrates me at times.
Thoughts on Aaron Glenn's ability to just simply shut up reporters, and they ask a question that he doesn't like, he puts them in their place. Do you like that out of Glenn, or you think he should take a chill pill in that facet?
No, I kind of like the fiery side to Aaron Glenn. I think it's very different than what Robert Saleh was, and those two get compared a lot. One, because Aaron Glenn is obviously following Robert Saleh, but they're both first-time head coaches who are former defensive coordinators or come from the defensive side of the ball. But I think if you look at how Robert Saleh handled the press, he was trying to be almost like buddy with them in a way. And Aaron Glenn's like, nope, this is my show. I'm going to come on here and do it how I want to do it. And I'm going to lead the conversation. It's not going to be, me bending the knee to you. So I like it. I think it's a good approach, and he hopefully backs it with the performance on the field as well.
1,000%. And I'm going to go over a position that's kind of viewed as a need. The Jets have some depth there, but no one I really view as a true starter in my eyes. That's the right tackle position. They have Max Mitchell, Carter Warren, both guys. I think Max Mitchell's gotten a ton of opportunities to really show who he is. I still kind of want to see one more season out of Carter Warren. You just don't know fully what's there yet. And then you sign Chukwuma Okorafor in free agency, who struggled as a left tackle on a few snaps with the Patriots last year, but known for being a right tackle throughout his entire career. And he's been okay as a right tackle in this league. So since 2022, though, since 2022, when he was benched for when he signed the extension, then was benched for Broderick Jones during the 2023 season, his show has really begun. His career has really begun to slide downhill. Is there anyone you view right now at the right tackle position? No one in free agency between Okorafor, Mitchell, and Warren. Is anyone you tab and say, maybe they could break out this season? Don't count any of those guys out. Anyone specifically there among those three?
I just think Okorafor, because he has the experience, would be that of the three most likely to get the job, assuming they don't add anyone. I think they will, though. So this is going to be a moot point in a couple weeks. But assuming it's a rookie, if they take a first round tackle in like an Armand Membu, then I think it's going to be assumed that Membu is going to be the starter at right tackle. But if they take a tackle on day 2, then I think it would be this competition, so to speak, between the day 2 tackle and Chuck Okorafor for that final spot on the offensive line, the starting right tackle spot. Um, but just because he has the experience, I know he had a brutal year last year. He only played in the one game and was horrible, and then just left the team. It was very bizarre, but at least he's been a capable starter. I don't think we've seen enough from Carter Warren or Max Mitchell to classify them as a capable starter.
1000%. One more draft topic here before we get into your questions, guys. Keep the questions coming in. Pin comment to call into the show. Super Chats membership's a great way to help us grow here on the show. They'll get you raffle entries, so we appreciate all your support. As always, do you think the Jets announcing this far ahead, Matt, that Elijah Vera Tucker will be their starting, their guard, and he will not be on the outside as a tackle? Does that, do you think, tip Darren Muji's hand that maybe he's leaning more towards a guy like Armand Membu in the first round who's been viewed as a consensus option for this team?
Yeah, I think it definitely could. I think it just goes to show that they're going to prioritize finding a tackle. And it's going to really depend on whether they view tackle or tight end for the biggest need. I think it's in all likelihood you're going to see both Membu and Tyler Warren on the board for the Jets at pick number 7. So I'm really curious to see the route that they go. It wouldn't shock me at all if they took Armand Membu, kind of just going off the Detroit Lions model when they drafted Penei Sewell and completed their offensive line. I definitely think that's a route that they could go.
Do you think, Matt, if the Jets do trade Breece Hall, that Ashton Jeanty could potentially be an option for this team in the first round? Or you think, yeah, if you trade Breece, you get a 3rd or 4th round pick back in exchange. Maybe that pick will be allocated towards a back. But you think trading Breece opens up the possibility to take Jeanty with the 7th overall pick?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out just because, and I know it's weird to say, running back in the first round, that's not normally something that I would like to do. And that's not my preferred route. But if you are trading Breece Hall and you're there at 7 and this guy who, by all accounts, is considered one of the top 3 prospects in this year's draft class, and I think you have to consider it. It would be unorthodox, but the Lions taking Gibbs in the first round a couple years ago was pretty unorthodox too, and it seemed to work out for them. So I just don't think it's something we could rule out if they did trade Breece.
Smash the like, hit subscribe. Matt and Connor here with you. Wednesday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. Super Chats memberships get you raffle entries. Like I said, get all your questions in the chat, pin comment. To call in, our guy David D, our Lions fan, comes in with $10. David, thank you so much for all your support here on the program. It really goes a long way. Says, Connor and Matt, what's your assessment of Breece Hall from a physical ability standpoint in the 2024 season compared to his pre-injury form in the 2022 season? Has Hall fully recovered his abilities? Matt, I'll let you go first here on this one.
Yeah, I thought he started the season slow last year, and definitely at points didn't look right. But I thought pretty much from the Buffalo game, which was week 6 through the end of the year, so in those 11 games, I thought he started to look more like the version of himself. He was averaging, 4.7 yards per carry, which is a much more respectable number. I think he finished with 4.2 on the year, which is a little bit lower than you'd like to see for a guy like Breece Hall. But for whatever reason, like out of the gate, it was a pretty slow start. He had that really bad game against Denver. They just couldn't do anything offensively. And then the next week against Minnesota, kind of the same thing. But there were a bunch of games after that week against the Minnesota Vikings where he was averaging, in the high 4s or 5 yards a carry. Buffalo, he had 6.3. That was probably his best game of the year. And then against New England, had a good game. Arizona, kind of the same thing. And then against Seattle as well. I know we used to open the show with them doing more running back by committee stuff, but I just found it bizarre that there was never a game this year where he touched 20 carries. And I would think with the Jets being more run heavy this year, hopefully we see Breece, have more of those, big offensive output games.
Here's the thing, Matt. When you mentioned yards per carry, honestly, you said it was 4.2 on the season, the mark you had?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Those 4.2 yards per carry, those are riding the coattails of those big home run plays. Breece Hall struggled with the consistency last season, like you mentioned, going game by game with the yards per carry. he really, with the exception of a few home runs, Brees Hall really had a down season overall for this team. And when it comes to being fully recovered from these injuries, yes and no, if this makes sense. His vision has always been a massive issue for him since coming out of college. That's one of my concerns. His elusiveness is something that's a step that I think he's lost a little bit over the past season or two, something I noticed. I don't know if that's a direct effect of the injury, but his ability to hit the hole and accelerate quickly, I think that's been hindered a little bit by the injury. And Matt, one thing I will say about the Jets opening up the running game and him not having 20 carries, part of that's on Aaron Rodgers for audibling out of every single run play. And then the other part is people forget that obviously, people are going to think of the coaching, and I get that 1000%. The coaching staff was far from perfect last season. However, Brees Hall had wide open holes to run through the first 5 weeks of the season. His vision didn't allow him to do that. He wasn't able to hit the hole hard. So I think, yes, the coaching staff was not great last year at being able to scheme the running game and provide holes for Brees. However, can you agree with this, Matt? I think Brees does deserve some of the blame last season. It wasn't his best year.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And I don't think he is blame free in this. At times last year, I did think he looked slow, like he wasn't hitting the hole with as much authority as we've seen in years gone by for him. I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, and Brees is definitely part of the equation. I do want to see him with this new staff and with this new offense, though. I'm not all the way out on him, but he's got a really big year in front of him because it's a contract year for him. He's going to the last year of his deal, and it's not a guarantee he's going to be here for a second deal. So he still has a lot to prove.
M. Valette says Carter Warren has some talent and is an accomplished player from the ACC. Happy for him in this new coaching regime. I think he deserves a shot to compete, Matt, and then he's a backup probably in season, but I just don't want to hand Carter Warren anything. Like, he hasn't shown me anything other than inconsistent and incompetent play at times that makes me, look at him and go, oh, I'm so excited to see what Carter Warren could do with this team. Especially, like, offensive line, it's super, super interesting. The Jets hired someone who has a background as a tight end coach to be their offensive line coach. And their tight end coach, Jeff Blasco, has a background of being an offensive line coach. I'm not sold on Warren by any measure here, Matt, and I don't want him to be touching the field as a starter.
No, and also injuries have impacted him too, both in college, his last year before entering the draft, and then I believe his rookie season got a late start in training camp because of that nagging injury. So, I'm not like saying cut the guy today and he has no future, but I think you just got to go into this training camp and just see where he's at. Has he improved? Has he gotten better? If so, great. Then you have someone who's likely a backup for this year, but who knows? Maybe it could develop into something more with a bigger role down the line.
Speaking of players making the 53-man roster, I'm going to go over the quarterback position here for a quick second. I know people are talking about Jordan Travis. I don't want Jordan Travis on this roster. I want them to draft a quarterback, and I want it to be whoever the rookie is, the developmental option, Tyrod and Fields. However, I was thinking today, and the Jet Press had a great article about it, which I strolled upon after I was thinking about it, ironically, is let's say you draft the quarterback, whether it be Will Howard, whether it be Kyle McCord, someone of that nature. You have that guy. You have a fully healthy Jordan Travis. Obviously, Justin Fields is pretty much going to be the starter, barring an unforeseen miracle. Let's say the rookie quarterback he draft thrives along with Travis. Tyrod Taylor struggles a little bit in the preseason. Matt, do you think there is any shot that Tyrod Taylor, poor preseason, two guys outperform him? Do you think there's any chance Tyrod does not crack this team's 53-man roster?
I think it would be a long shot. I think they'd want that veteran presence in the room. It's not impossible, right? Because he is an older veteran and you just don't know where he's going to be at this point in his career. But I'd be surprised if they went with Justin Fields and the rookie as the backup. I think they'd want that veteran experience in the room.
I get that. I love Tyrod. I think Tyrod should be competing for the starting job. I was just thinking about it, especially if they're a team that's trying to get younger and you really want to see what you have in a rookie, and then Travis, obviously Fields is your starter. I was just thinking about that earlier today. Okay, Alan comes in, says, Connor, totally agree with your Hall take. A third and a fifth works for me. Restart the clock. Matt, Patrick Ross about to get fired, by the way. Membu, Tyleek Williams, Arroyo, top 3 picks. Matt, address the Islander comment and then the picks.
Yeah, he had some pretty strong words for Anthony Duclair after the game last night. Essentially said he's lucky to be in the lineup. He's going full John Tortorella potentially on the way out, which I know. Shout out to Alan. He's a big Islander fan and supports the Up the Turnpike channel that I have covering the Islanders. As for the rest of this, Membu, Williams, and Arroyo is an intriguing start to this draft. There's some tight ends that I prefer over Arroyo, but that feels a little like nitpicky for me. If you were to swap one of those, like if you were to swap in either Gunnar Helmer or Terrence Ferguson for me, I think I'd like that a little bit better. But I'm nitpicking Allen's dream draft. But this is something that I think an approach that's realistic. I would not be surprised at all if their first 3 picks were Membu, Williams, and then some tight end in the 3rd round.
You address your 3 major needs if you really think about it. You get your starting right tackle. Preferably, I don't want to get my right tackle in the 1st round. I'd rather go with a Tyler Warren or Ted McMillan type guy. But then you get the run-stuffing defensive lineman. Then you get your pass-catching tight end. 3 of the main needs addressed there. If I had to alter it a little, just staying with the same position, I would go Membu. I would take TJ Sanders if he's still there over Tyleik Williams, and I would take Harold Fannin Jr. over Elijah Arroyo. That's the way I'd alter it a little bit, but I'd be more than happy with that draft, Matt. And Field Yates released a 2-round mock today. I know you released a video on it earlier. He had Membu going to the Jets in the 1st round and Mason Taylor going to the Jets in the 2nd round. We all know Armand Membu. I want to get your thoughts, though, on Mason Taylor as a prospect. Would you be comfortable selecting him as early as the 2nd round?
Yeah, I would. I would not be surprised at all if he ends up going in the 2nd round. I think he's one of the better day 2 options for the Jets at the tight end position. I thought he performed really well at the combine. And I know, like, sometimes you got to take that with a grain of salt, right? It is just, an event where they're not in pads. It's not a game situation. But he does have the NFL lineage where he can lean on, his dad, who was a player in the league, Jason Taylor, for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also really productive in the SEC. So, that matters to me. So I'd be in on it.
Smash the like, hit subscribe. Matt and Connor here with you on NY Flight Jets Talk. Last chance to get your questions, comments, thoughts in here before we wrap up on the show. We're back tomorrow night. Should have a guest. And then big news is we got Mike Greenberg of ESPN joining us on Monday at 3 p.m. So that will be our Monday show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate your support here as always on the show. Matt, appreciate you hopping on. You got any final thoughts here before we wrap up?
Yeah, I'm ready to get into this next stage of the NFL draft. I feel like we're another week or 2 out before the rumors really start flying, but almost there.
1,000%. So then we got the draft. And then after you think about it, the draft, you spend like a week or 2 analyzing all the prospects, some more smoke screen ahead of training camp. And then I feel like from May 3rd, when rookie mini camp kind of gets underway, May 3rd to like midway through July, I feel like that's a large dead period, right, Matt?
By far the most dead period of the NFL. We'll get through it. We always find a way to do it. But yeah, enjoy this time while we have it.
Agreed. I don't know how long the UFL season lasts, but I'm going to be honest. I have not hated watching some UFL football recently. There's some solid like guys who were drafted in the NFL. The guy Matt Corral from the Panthers, who was a 3rd round pick, is playing in the UFL. Kellen Mond is in the UFL. Max Duggan. Do you watch the UFL, Matt?
I can't say that I have, honestly.
Okay. So I just wanted to get into it because of the football season coming to an end, and I picked my team. I'm a DC Defenders fan, and I chose that team because Tanner Engstrand was their offensive coordinator during the 2020 season. So I said I might as well run with the Defenders, and their quarterback was drafted. I think he was Zach Wilson's backup for a little while, and that is Jordan Teyamu of BYU. So highly recommend watching the UFL for those who aren't. Who are interested in Davidson. Jake Bates made the UFL worth it by itself. I mean, Jake Bates produced by the UFL. Brandon Aubrey came from the UFL. Rodrigo Blankenship is now kicking in the UFL. So a lot of solid kickers in the UFL. But we appreciate you guys tuning in here as always. That'll do it for us. He's Matt. I'm Connor. That's all here on NY Flight Jets Talk. JTS. Jets.